So, we find ourselves once again on a Wednesday, and you know what that means? When it's not a terrible microphone review, it's a Planet Coaster Day. And this week is in fact a Planet Coaster Day, not a microphone review, which is actually not an ongoing series. It's just that last week I did a microphone review instead of Planet Coaster, and someone noticed. Someone wondered where Planet Coaster was. So clearly, we have at least one viewer of this series. So, to you, my friend, my best friend, this is for you. I'm dedicating this episode to you. I've forgotten your username. I'm sorry, but know that this episode in spirit is dedicated to you. And what are we doing in this episode? We are finishing Crimson Tower. That's right. I feel like I've reached a point where I'm happy with this park in terms of its size, its scope. There's a few things I guess I don't like too much about it, but we're kind of too far into the build now to change those things, or at least I think from a series point of view, it can be weird having to go back and retrofit all the stuff we've done before. So I'm going to call the park finished now, and I've got big plans for the next Planet Coaster endeavor. But this is the roller coaster we're building in this episode, or should I say the roller coaster that we've built in this episode, because as you can see, I've already finished constructing it. It's not a very long or complicated track layout, so there wasn't really any way of dragging this construction phase out without it getting really tedious and boring. So this is it. For those that couldn't tell or just aren't familiar with this game all that much, it's a giant inverted Boomerang coaster, which in the real world is built by Vekoma. It's kind of got that signature track design that Arrow kind of shares as well, like Vekoma and Arrow. Well, we don't need to go to the specifics, but they have the same sort of track layout basically. Although the thing that makes this different to a traditional Boomerang coaster, as the name would imply, is the fact that the cars are inverted, as in they're suspended from the track rather than sitting on the track like a conventional roller coaster would. It also has these giant vertical towers rather than a traditional normal slope that isn't vertical. I'm great at picking out words, aren't I? So yeah, it's got these big two very tall inverted towers, and I've never actually built, even in like the RCT games, I've never built one of these sorts of coasters before. I just don't know. I just never really built it. I don't think I've even built a Boomerang coaster either, come to think of it. So maybe I should do that in the next park. But that will all be done there. Maybe you guys hate this episode and I won't do another one. But if you guys liked this this design, do let me know. I will be showing the POV at the end, don't worry, but most of this episode now is going to be dedicated to the construction of stations. I say stations because we're not only going to be building the station of this coaster here, but some of you may, possibly won't, but then there's a chance you might remember earlier in this series I mentioned that we've still got one monorail station to build, so we're going to be building that as well. It's a fairly minimalist, fairly modern design. Kind of looks a little bit communist, actually. I don't know why. I took a step back. I noticed it had quite a brutalist appearance, and I'm like, looks a little bit communist. Oh well. So sorry, I don't know why I'm apologizing, but that's just something that made me laugh. This coaster station, though, kind of actually looks a little bit like the stations in Roller Coaster Tycoon World, that game that everyone loves and Planet Coaster is vastly inferior to. It kind of looks like those stations that come with that stock game. It's just a very basic station, kind of a modern layout, a lot of coasters. I want to say Top Thrill Dragster has a station like this off the top of my head. I'm not going to check. I'm too lazy for that, but I'm pretty sure Top Thrill Dragster's station is like this. Although with this roof, I did notice that the cable that pulls the car up the tower, whilst functionally it's not affected because it's an aesthetic thing only in this game, kind of looks a bit weird having it go through the roof, so I ended up kind of adding a little sort of, I don't know, like a tube structure, or at least a cylindrical structure that's meant to represent a tube for the cable to go through, just in case one of you out there has noticed that little kind of design flaw with this station there. But that's it. Like I say, fairly basic design, nothing too special, but I don't know, I think I kind of like the simplicity of it. I kind of wanted to, because with this coaster type, it's one of the few coaster types where it has a really impressive structure, as in those two towers for the lift hills. They're actually quite intricate and pretty visually impressive. Obviously, they are kind of dwarfed by the big red tower in this park, or should I say Crimson Tower, to be used kind of more accurate terminology there, at least if we're going on the park's namesake. But I thought, kind of the actual architecture of the towers, I feel could do a better job than some intricately themed stations. So I kind of kept the station nice and minimalist, and have the towers on show. And that means also that when you're standing on the ground path, you can kind of see the station as it rockets through the station after. So you can kind of see the train as it kind of lifts up the lift hill, and you can watch the passengers come down the lift hill again and shoot through the station out the other side, all kind of unobstructed, which I think is kind of nice. See if kind of people off the ride a sense of kind of the speed. I hope. That's my hope anyway. And I called it Flashback. A lot of these rides are actually... This is weird. I think there's like 3 giant inverted boomerangs in the real world called Deja Vu. That Deja Vu was the one at Six Flags Magic Mountain that was in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, I think. It's actually not there anymore. It was relocated and renamed Goliath at another Six Flags park, the name of which is escaping me right now. Let me just look this up. Oh, actually, okay, so there aren't any called Deja Vu right now. There were 3 called Deja Vu, but they've since been renamed to other things. You've got Aftershock at Silverwood Theme Park at Six Flags Great America, which was called Deja Vu originally. You also got Goliath at Six Flags New England, which used to be called Deja Vu. And then you got one that's currently being built that used to be called Deja Vu, so I'm guessing that's a relocation jobby. But that's that. And then we've got some wonderful nauseating camera angles, doing a quick sort of view around of the park before we can kind of fade across to this footage here of building the monorail station. Like I say, it was a fairly modern design, fairly simplistic design. Basically there to transport guests either from the hotel or from the main entrance to the back part of the park where the sci-fi area is. I didn't really like the way it kind of has this giant staircase leading up to it, but I couldn't really think of an elegant way of getting guests to and from the station down to the main path, and I didn't really want to have the monorail track do this big sort of inclination change, like, a big ramp down to ground level. So I thought, well, we'll just keep a staircase. I don't know. If you guys have a better idea, then actually just keep it to yourself, so I don't feel so bad about my job here. But there we are. See, it's kind of just this nice basic sort of basin structure to contain the paths, like the queues and the station itself, and then it's all kind of encased in this sort of truss structure, I guess. Don't know, I kind of like the minimalist kind of approach to it, but I guess I don't know why I feel this way, but it kind of reminds me of those old Soviet buildings that were around at the height of communism in Russia. I mean, it's not the most democratic place right now, as we've heard all this shenanigans with the election. I'm not going to say any more because I know Vladimir Putin is a big fan of this series, and I don't want to, exacerbate the already quite tense political situation between the UK and Russia. But that weird divergence aside, I guess I can just get to the POV now. So this is it here. Not much more to say about that, really. I'll carry on talking during the initial ascent, and I guess I can talk about it when we go up the next tower as well, because it's a bit boring just to watch the footage at real-time speed without this commentary, which is clearly not tedious and boring. But I didn't really appreciate just kind of how scary this might be in real life. I mean, I don't find roller coasters scary per se, but it's intimidating. It reminds me of Oblivion at Alton Towers, where it's a vertical drop roller coaster where you kind of go to the edge of the vertical drop and it hangs you there, so you're staring downwards. This is kind of even worse than that, because you're just going up and up and up and you have no idea if you've reached the top or not, and just before it drops you, it hangs for a split second. And there we are, and we can rocket through the station again. There we are. Now this is actually a completely different layout to most giant inverted boomerang coasters. Most of the boomerang coasters essentially... Oh god, I was supposed to keep silent here, wasn't I? Whoops! Oh well. Yeah, most giant inverted boomerang coasters, as I'm sure people will point out in the comments, they don't follow this layout at all. What they do, it tends to just be, it's just you kind of get pulled backwards out the station as per this ride up the vertical tower, but then you come out the station, the only elements are a loop and a cobra roll element, and then it forms this sort of X shape. It's like a figure of 8, but like an X shape, because obviously it's not a complete loop because it's a shuttle coaster. So this is a far more complex layout, and I think it's a better layout. So, Six Flags, if you're watching this, I'm willing to sell you this design for an exorbitant price. Do get in contact with me. I will accept it on Patreon. You can donate to my highest tier on Patreon. That'll be a suitable compensation for this ride if you'd like to build it in your newest parks. Because the Wonder Woman coaster, let's face it, it's not going to be as good as this. But yeah, that's this ride wrapped up. And with that, that's this series wrapped up. What an anticlimactic way to end the series. I mean, I'm thinking I'm going to do a cinematic overview of the park. I'll probably do that, upload that for next Wednesday, because with the amount of work I've got on at the moment, I haven't got that much time to dedicate to, making more Planet Coaster episodes. I made Crimson Tower with a lot of episodes already with the footage shot, so I had a big backlog so I could carry on making episodes, but now I've not got that backlog. It's going to be much harder to keep to the weekly schedule, so there'll probably be a little hiatus for Planet Coaster whilst I kind of get together the basics of the new park before I start uploading the episodes again. And like I say, I'm really busy with work at the moment, so it's very hard for me to make videos, hence why the Kerbal Space Program videos as of late have been fairly simplistic science mode walkthroughs, although the actual response to those videos has been really good, so maybe we might carry on doing the tutorial-esque ones for the foreseeable future, at least until I've done my exams in April. But yes, that's this video. I hope you enjoyed it. There is a link to the full playlist on screen if you didn't see that already. Twitter, Patreon, Discord, all in the description if you want to join those. Hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.